Good afternoon, you hardy souls out here in this cold weather. Welcome to the January 11th, 2024 meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm President Becky Greenwald. So today, a little factoid from Becky's Buzz. We're going to talk about one of our 7 areas of focus for Rotary grants, and that is the environment. So the 7 areas are the categories of service activities that are supported by these global grants, which is the power of Rotary being such a large international organization. So yeah, hopefully most of you know the 7. So I'm just going to say them in case there's some folks that may not be aware of them. It's peace building and conflict prevention, disease prevention and treatment, water, sanitation and hygiene, maternal and children's health, basic education and literacy, community and economic development, and in June of 2020, through a unanimous decision by both the Rotary International Foundation trustees and the Rotary International Board, we approved adding the 7th area of focus, supporting the environment. So while that's a new area of focus, environmental work is not new to Rotary itself. And again, it makes applying for and accessing global grant funds more readily available. Plus, it gives each of us an opportunity to reach out to some of our more environmentally minded friends and let them know what Rotary is doing in the area of environment, and maybe have some new members come check out our club. It'd be great to see that. So a little bit of history. 34 years ago, the president of Rotary International in 1991 was a man named Paulo Costa, and he made environment one of his primary causes. He started a Preserve Planet Earth subcommittee, and it looked at ways that clubs and members could conduct environmental initiatives. And then there's what they call the SRAG. That almost, it's got a real flair to it, right? It's the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. So that's one of many Rotary Action Groups that are in existence. And this one, members take actions to sustain the environment, particularly to stabilize climate. So this has been going on for several years. It's formal now as of the 2020. But nearly every Wednesday of the year, this SRA group hosts online Zoom webinars which share sustainability work around the world. And these webinars include talks from internationally renowned scientists, economists, entrepreneurs, and journalists. And since they're on Wednesdays, they don't conflict with our club. And I think they do them at 8 in the morning our time, or it's 2. It's either 8 or 2. And there's some really interesting topics that are covered every week. So the SRAG helps Rotary clubs and our districts offering technical expertise and support, and they help the clubs plan and implement projects. Why? Because we want to increase our impact with every dollar that we spend wherever it is around the world, and that's one of our main priorities in Rotary. So while you do not have to be a Rotarian or a Rotaract member to join SRAG or any action committee group, because everyone's welcome to share their expertise and make a positive difference. But only Rotarians or Rotaractors or Rotary Peace Fellows can serve in a leadership role. So this Rotary Action Group, like others, does operate in accordance with the Rotary International's policies, but it's not an agency of or controlled by International Rotary. So a little bit about SRAG and Rotary Action Groups. And there are a slew of Rotary Action Groups when I look them up. So I could keep going for 2 years if we wanted to cover those, but I'll spare you today. So moving on, there's nobody signed up to do inspiration today or the rest of this month. So I'm putting a plea out there. Somebody please come forward to do inspiration the next few weeks while we are gathered here. So if you've got a little something you'd like to share, or you just like to bone up on your public speaking skills, we'd love to have you come up and sign up. And you can always sign up out at the table or online. So hope I encourage and entice somebody to do that for us. So what I'd like to do now is have everyone stand, and I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and our flag of attendance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Is it fun?
Greet your fellow Rotarians, I guess.
Good to see you. How are you? Hello. No, I did not. Did you?
I think it is on my calendar.
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny, hi, very nice to meet you. Perfect, good idea. Thank you for bringing me this fun. Okay, we have several guests that we'd like to welcome and greet. Would our guests please stand as I call your name, and then we'll save our applause until the end, and we'll welcome everyone at one time. So first, I'd like to ask Jackie Bolts to stand. She is Director of Business Support at Des Moines Area Community College, a guest of Christina Smith. Jenny Cooper with Bankers Trust, a guest of Todd Wishman. Stacy Hupp Ballard, Chief Strategic Communications Officer and guest of our speaker. And Randy Klumpers with Berkshire Hathaway, a guest of Jake Unruh. And Max Sexton, Google Public Affairs, guest of Susan Judkins. Welcome to each and every one of you. Okay, so now it's tumbler time. So please consider donating $5 into the coffee mug on your table if you don't have the little green dollar sign on your name badge. And if you do, you can always put a few more dollars in there, because all that money goes to our Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation, and that's how we pay for the wonderful things that we do throughout our community. So thank you always for your continued support. All right, where in the world was Club 27? Well, last week I snuck out of town right after we had our meeting, actually the next morning. I went to Palm Springs to spend some time with my sister Sherry, and they're having the 35th annual Sonny Bono inspired International Film Festival. So Sherry and I took in several films and documentaries, and we had a really good time. So that's what I was doing, and guess what? I came home last night at midnight, right in between those two stores. So here we are. Okay, but remember, if you're going somewhere, please check out one of these signs with Kitty. Take it with you, because we'd love to know what you're doing, whether it's afar or near. We'd just like you to have us go with you so we can keep tabs on what's happening with our club members. And last week, we heard from Ed Arnold with the Northwest Des Moines Rotary Club and Lori Neiman from the Iowa Wolves. So we know we've got our Friday, the February 23rd event with the Wolves coming up. And that's an event to support and benefit the End Polio Now campaign. So if you want to support the cause but cannot attend the ball game, please sign up on one of the information sheets on your table, and we can bill your account. And those tickets will go to a worthy child's organization so they can attend. And if you want to go to the game, you'll need to sign up using the QR code and then buy your tickets there. And Lori warned us that it's going to be a pretty fast sellout club. So if you want to do that, I really encourage you to make those decisions now. And be sure that you let them know that the donation comes from the Rotary Club of Des Moines Noon Club, so that the funds are credited to our club for those polio donations. Now I'm going to ask our new member, Steve Delay, to come to the front and talk about him a little bit while we all stare at him. So, very much want to welcome Steve to our club. Steve is a staff attorney for the Iowa Center for Children's Justice. And we asked Steve 5 fun facts, and we're going to share that response with you. Okay, you remember what you said?
No.
Okay. Don't change your mind. Say, if you've got a free day, what would you find you doing? RV camping and hiking, but not today.
Not today.
Okay. Where in the world have you traveled that you cannot wait to go back to?
I remember saying Marco Island,
That's-
and never more than right now.
Okay, Marco Island, Florida, so true. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
It doesn't take any longer to do it right the first time.
Yeah. Very good one. I'm gonna pay attention to that one. And what talent or skill do you possess that might surprise or delight people?
I've been trying to learn how to play the guitar for about 50 years. I generally like to play in circumstances where people have been drinking because I sound better.
How those hands doing with your?
I got the calluses.
You got the- yeah, he's
Yeah,
legit.
yeah, I'm not lying.
Great. Okay, and you're joining Rotary. What can't you wait to tell your friends about our organization?
Just how welcoming you were. I came from Decorah. We relocated because my children and grandchildren decided to live here, and we're both at a good life stage where we could make a transition. Had been involved in Rotary in Decorah. Really didn't know. I thought to myself, well, I'm moving to Des Moines. I'll join the Des Moines Rotary Club. And pull it up on Google, and there's 15 of them, of course. So I thought, well, my office is just on the other side of the river here. I'll just pick the one that's closest. And then as I'm walking up here, going, oh yeah, I remember this place. I've been to a couple bar meetings up here and wandered in, felt a little bit like a fish out of water, but was welcomed from day one, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, that's great. Great to hear. We're so happy that you are with us. And now we've got a little bit more information to share about Steve, who was born in the Chicago area, grew up in Cedar Rapids, graduating from the University of Iowa Law School back in 1983. So when he set up for bar meetings, he was talking about these law. Well, maybe not. Oh, okay. And
I don't remember.
he first worked as a public defender and as an assistant county attorney. Steve retired in 2023 after 30 years as an attorney and partner with the Anderson Law Firm in Decorah. And after a short sabbatical, he's begun work as a staff attorney at the Iowa Center for Children's Justice in Des Moines. His work involves providing legal assistance, mediation services, and other resources for children and their families going through divorce and custody proceedings. Steve and his wife Trudy relocated to Polk City last summer after working and raising their family in Decorah. Trudy's a registered nurse and retired from a career as a healthcare management person who enjoys being close to their children and grandchildren. Their son Jake is a realtor who lives in Grimes with his wife and 2 children. Their daughter Katie is a registered nurse who lives in West Des Moines, so quite a family service here in our area. So we're glad you moved to the Des Moines area. So please everyone join me in welcoming Steve as our newest Rotary. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, and now I should get the heads up for Patty Quinslick, who is a new member and is going to introduce our speaker. Okay.
Well, and I'll just say I did not have the pleasure of meeting Debbie previously, but then I got sent some of her information. I must admit I'm quite impressed. So let me tell you a little bit about Debbie. She is a longtime economic and community development professional. She now serves as the director of the Iowa Economic Development Association and the Iowa Finance Authority. She was named to the position by Governor Chris Reynolds in January of 2019. She was first appointed to lead the Iowa Economic Development Authority in 2011 and has turned the agency into a successful public-private partnership, landed $1 billion economic development projects for Iowa, and works tirelessly to expand trade and investment opportunities for the state. She was appointed to the Iowa Finance Authority in 2019 when Governor Reynolds recognized the opportunity to further boost Iowa's communities and economy by bringing together these 2 organizations. She prides herself on building coalitions, supporting new ventures, and strengthening the state's industries and communities. Prior to joining the state government, she served as a Siouxland Chamber of Commerce. So comes to us from sort of western Iowa. But that sounds great. There's also all these other things that she told me not to say. But, you know, she's got an interesting background, and she likes to play with her grandson.
I do
So,
that, yeah, she
you know,
did say
she's
that,
one
yes.
of us, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, please welcome Debbie Durham.
And yes, I do. I am now the grandmother of 4 grandsons, and I have to tell you, my favorite Christmas present this year is I play soccer with my grandson when I get to see him. They live out in Long Island. And he told his parents, the thing, and they call me Dee Dee, the thing Dee Dee really wants for Christmas is a soccer goal and a soccer ball. So that's what I got for Christmas this year. My very, very favorite gift. So we'll see. I think he thought I needed practice. So I'm gonna go through a lot of information today. I do want to leave time for Q&A. But I start every presentation with this slide. And the reason I do it because it's really level set for us. It's how we approach growth in the state of Iowa. So it's a very holistic approach. It is all about creating a business climate in which our businesses can prosper. And so what is that? That's taxation, regulatory, workforce development, infrastructure, right? Certified sites being development ready. But I would tell you it is equally, if not more important, that we build communities in which people want to live. Because Iowa's biggest challenge, and it was the same pre-COVID as it is today, is Iowa has a population problem. So community development is all about housing, it's all about environment, it's all about quality of life, arts and culture, all those things that create that environment, that sense of place in which we can attract people, right? But at the heart of what we do, and I never want our team to lose sight of it, is that we are about raising the standard of living for Iowans. So it is all about policies in which businesses can prosper. It's about policies to create vibrant communities. But it is also about policies at the individual level that gives our citizens the ability to thrive. I'm a developer that does not believe all jobs are good jobs or all development are good development jobs, right? We really want those that raise the standard of living. So it's really a wealth creating proposition. The other way that we approach growth is we play to who we are. So if you think of Iowa, I want you to think primarily in these 3 very large, what Michael Porter would say are traded clusters, right? They're verticals. So that's insurance and finance, right? Not surprising when we're sitting in the center of that epicenter, right? But it's also advanced manufacturing, which is our largest growth state product. It's always surprising. Everybody thinks it's ag, and this is like about a little over 2 times the size of ag. Not to say that ag doesn't support many of these platforms or undervaluing that in any way. And then of course it's bio. And bio is probably the deepest and probably the most exciting platform we have right now. Because it is everything from biofuels, which we own, but it's everything from biomedical devices and in between. And it's so dynamic. A lot of your energy investments are happening here. I show these other 2 as horizontals. And you can easily exchange information technology or IT technology with innovation, right? Mature platforms. If we're not looking at what's next, we're going to continue to not scale in these. And then we show ed tech as the newest kind of area of focus for IEDA. And it's not just the delivery of education in the classroom, which I have to say needs and has to look different. You know, I think we learned that during COVID. It's really about how we change an ever-evolving workforce, right? It's not just about 4 years degrees or even 2 years degrees. It's about micro-credentialing, right? It's about an AI that is actually cross-cutting across all of these, and not something we should fear. I mean, with any new technology, there are certainly things that we need to be concerned about, but we've been using AI in industry for a very, very long time. So this is who we are. So what I'm going to do today is touch on basically our work plan. How's our business plan in which we want to continue to scale wealth, and we're going to touch on these areas of focus. I'm going to start with workforce because that's what we hear all the time. And again, I started by saying it is our largest challenge of workforce development. So this is where I also say that all of you in the room who can birth more children need to do that. Or if you have children, you should need to be relentless about telling them to do that, right? Which is why I have now 4 grandsons. I always look at, people always want to say, what is your unemployment rate? Iowa's unemployment rate is always low. It doesn't matter what the economy is or what's happening, Iowans work. To me, the number that is far more telling is labor participation, because that is the number of everyone that's able-bodied between the working ages can be working. Now, we're going up, but this was much higher pre-COVID. It was 70.3%, right? So who left during the COVID? Retirees exited in mass numbers, right? In Iowa, retirees work past retirement age. Not surprising. But if you think about our 401ks, we're pretty healthy then, right? Nobody knew what tomorrow was going to bring. And so not surprising. You're beginning to see them come back a little bit. Women exited in massive numbers. Why is that important to Iowa? Because Iowa has the highest dual income workers in a family household in anyone. So that's important to us. But look at what's happening. Schools shut down. You had this thing called online learning. Whoever thought that kids could do that by themselves was wrong, right? You had daycares. We lost 33% of our daycares in the last 5 years. So it's not surprising that women exited. The one group that we are finally beginning to see come back that is the most disturbing to me, though, and this is not just Iowa, this is national, young men 25 through 34. So where are they? I have no idea. You know, people said, well, they're back at their parents' basements. Any of you that are doing that should kick them out, right? They're back in their parents' basements, or they got so burnt out during COVID, they are out finding themselves. And I'm just saying they need to find themselves back to work because our economy needs it. All right, so we definitely have room to grow in our workforce based on labor participation. But if we're not going to grow the economy or, you know, the population organically, which we need to do, but that's a long-term proposition, we're going to have to attract people in. Iowa looks different today, and I spend 2 to 3 days a week in communities of all sizes, right? We're going to have our first county in the state of Iowa by the year 2030, if not sooner, where the minority will be the majority population. The thing that is concerning to me is I don't see diversity around the decision-making tables in those communities, right? Our communities look different. Our leadership has to look different, right? But we have to attract people in. Everything we do at IFA and IEDA is based on research. So, intuitively, we knew the strong attraction between workforce and tourism, right? Greg will tell you this, right? And you think about it, when you go to a place and have a wow experience, does it cross your mind that I can see myself actually living here, right? My son married well, and he and his wife are architects in the Hamptons. And Joel and I go there, you know, once a year to see the grandsons. And we say, wow, this is charming. We can picture ourselves living here. But of course, then again, when you realize you need a trust fund to live in the Hamptons, that becomes reality, right? So we do know there is a connection between tourism. So why is that important? Because so when we're promoting the state fair or all the events that Greg's bringing in or RAGBRAI, we need to make the connection. Yes, you're here for this incredible event, but you could live here, right? And you could live big in Iowa. And so connecting those messages is extremely important. The other thing is we run tourism department for the state and marketing. We do all the marketing for the state, regardless if it's business investment or tourism investment and visitation. Completely tone deaf to spend our marketing dollars during COVID when nobody was leaving their basements, right? So we researched, we paused and said, did COVID change the way you look at the place you call home? Staggering. 7 out of 10 said, not only did it change, we would look at doing something different. Look at these demographics, right? 30, 40, 20. This, folks, is our recruitment plan. These are who we need to recruit here, right? To prop up all the rest of us that are closer to retirement than not, of course. So then we went a step further and said, that's great, but what would you move for, right? So this is updated research. The first research was the number one was still the same. Affordability, cost of living. We want to live bigger than than we can live right now. That's understandable. The first one we did was economic vitality, which meant if I move my family, which is so disruptive, to a place and it doesn't work out, you know, sometimes it doesn't, is there another gig in the marketplace that my skill sets can transfer, right? Logical. Third was outdoor rec, off the charts. They wanted trails and parks And they, oh, by the way, we want to be connected the entire time we're on those trails so that we can share that experience with you, including what we had to lunch, which is about why we have all these data centers, so we can share those photographs, and including, you know, cat photographs, right? So anyway, and then the fourth thing was arts and culture. Now, when we redid it, still affordability, still really arts and culture and rec, quality of life, safety, public safety is now number 2. Which is very interesting, particularly, and I think not surprising when you see what has happened in so many of our incredible iconic cities around the country, right? Policies actually matter. So that's what we learned. So then we decided, we asked the question, Iowa checks all those boxes. What do you think of Iowa? Well, the response was, where the hell is Iowa and do you grow potatoes, right? So we had a brand problem, right? True flyover state. So we launched, use COVID dollars, by the way, Governor Reynolds says we're gonna change this. So we launched thisisiowa.com. If you go to the website, see the commercial, it is absolutely breathtaking. If you listen to the narrative actually, it shows all these incredible scenes of Iowa. They think we're flat corn. Obviously, yes, we grow a lot of corn. They don't realize, they've never ridden right apparently, right? They don't see the geographic diversity of our state. The diversity of Iowa across the board, right? So this commercial is absolutely breathtaking. And when you look at it, the narrative is like, we're rolling hills meet low bills. And this incredible land of opportunity. And once again, we measured, right? So what was the result? Positives up 20%. Negatives went down 50, full disclosure. They weren't very high to begin with, right? Because what was it, 11, 14%, something like that, right? But still, half is half, we're gonna take it. But look at the natural beauty. The landscape really began to change. So now, we began to now measure everything. We're working with DOT. In Iowa, you have to surrender your driver's license in a very short period of time. So we actually get that information, not down to the individual, but aggregated, right? So we know exactly the counties in California in which people are moving to Iowa. So it's interesting, number 1 last year, net migration in the state, California, a few counties of California, right? Then you have Illinois, not surprising, anyone that can is leaving Illinois. So just, for a variety of reasons. Nebraska, this one's great. And Matt, you're gonna appreciate this, being where Google is situated. For the first time, we're seeing out of that Omaha, Council Bluff MSA, positive migration now into Iowa from Nebraska, right? And if you have not been to Council Bluffs, I would encourage you to do so, because it's a different place. Because they have got this whole community development thing. They understand investing in place and art and culture and all of those things that we used to set on the side in economic development saying that's not important, is important. And it's making a difference there. Hawaii, I have no clue why that is. I don't know if it's one big family that's moved, because what is it, 200 people or something? I don't know. So we don't know. So don't count much on that. I think that'll change. And then, of course, we know the counties in New York and New Jersey that are also moving. So now we have to take it to the next level. Right, this has been fun. It's nice changing the brand of Iowa, but now we need to be more intentional. So now we have basically a 4-tiered plan to actually recruit people to Iowa. So we're researching those verticals I talked about. We're finding out where are the missing skill sets, and then we're connecting them to actual work. We hired a headhunter, if you will, an old term, for the state of Iowa, so that we can actually now connect people not only to work, but to place. And we're working with our community, so stay tuned. This will unroll in the first quarter. And Stacy, who's with me today, is leading that, by the way. She's our strategic communication officer and apparently my chauffeur today. Doing great work. Infrastructure is broad, so I'm only going to talk on infrastructure that has been an impediment to our growth, right? The way Governor Reynolds approached the COVID dollars that came into our state was, let's use them in a way, strategically, transformationally, that deals with the weaknesses that when this is passed, that Iowa will come out even stronger than we were before going into COVID. So what was that? We're gonna make major investments in broadband, because we learned you can run the world from your kitchen table, right? If you have connectivity. And it is the great equalizer for where people live, including rural Iowa. And so we're gonna make major investments. So this $1 billion that is not completely deployed right now in the field will be, and that's both private and public, federal and state, huge investments. Housing, right? Huge amounts of investment. Child care. And then I use commercial aviation because I think the investments that we made with the COVID dollars, in addition to those of you that said we need to bond for this, for the airport, I applaud you. Because if you think of Iowa's or Des Moines Airport, it is our largest welcome center. Wouldn't you agree with that, Greg? Largest welcome center for the state. It needs to shout metropolitan, right? It needs to shout, when you've come here, you have entered Iowa. And so we are so excited about the plans for that. So housing. Going into COVID, I said to Governor Reynolds, we're gonna have the biggest economic development year we've ever had. Little did I have to walk that back a bit. The reason was because trade agreements were signed, tax cuts were in effect, the economy on all cylinders was working, right? Except for housing and connectivity. Even then, we knew that. Housing has been a major impediment to our growth. It has not kept up. We have a very old housing stock. We have very low inventory, right? And so we have made major investments, but look at it now. I mean, #1 place state for millennials home ownership. First of all, millennials have now decided they need to own a home, right? So that's a good thing, because for years they didn't think they needed that. So look, these are incredible rates, one of the highest home ownership rates in the nation. So we have a great story to tell. Again, if you would have seen this presentation 2 years ago, the number would have been 42,000 housing units. That's actually easier for me to deal with than this number. The newest number that came out, and I'll explain that, we say, well, gosh, we're making progress, right? These are not all units that are in the marketplace today, but they're under construction or permitted or, that. The difference is now we're down to nuanced stuff, right? Yes, we need housing, but we need more single-family housing than multifamily housing. And any of you in the construction industry know how difficult that is, right? How do you do that? And when I say single family, I think the majority of those needs to be home ownership, single family, because I think that's how you transition neighborhoods and that's how you transition communities, right? But our thoughts of what housing looks like has to be challenged. So housing is not just the house with the big lot on the corner, right? Housing can be condos or townhouses with 0 lot lines, right? They can be duplexes and fourplexes that are owner occupied, right? They can be upper story housing in our downtowns, which are fabulous, by the way, if you see these across the state, right? They need to look different, and so we need to be open. And so we have a ton of incentives, both with the state legislature worked with us, that is moving the needle. And by the way, I want to introduce Jenny Cooper, because Jenny is on both. She was on IEDA and IFAS board. Now she's on IFA board, has really helped set this policy, but we're making a difference. The same thing with child care, right? Between slots and major capital investments. So now we're seeing, after talking to Director Garcia with HHS, we see a real change in the inventory. Again, a lot of this is still being built out, but we see capacity increasing. Now the issue is we're seeing a shortage in before and after childcare. School childcare, right? And so we need to look at our friends in education to say, you have assets that are sitting there, and I'm not expecting teachers to run after school programs or before school programs, but somebody needs to come in and do that. You already got the asset, it's a sunk cost, we're already paying for it, so let's use what we have. Sustainability, calling card for Iowa, right? And we have, and Richard, you know this, we have been on this journey for a long time, not just because it became vogue, right? We have been investing in renewables, and to have people like Mid-American Energy and our investor-owned alliance to be able to source a production economy, because that's who we are, on a renewable ticket, and do it in a way that is not only affordable, but reliable, is game-changing. And we are really more advanced than any other state in doing this, and we'll continue to do it. But we have to once again push the envelope. You can't do it just with wind. You can't do it just with solar. I am a huge advocate for nuclear. I think we have to have a clean base load. We need to be able to revisit it. The modular units that we have been doing are much different than the plants of old. We need to be open to that kind of new technology. Hydrogen is actually another big play for Iowa. Not only are we a producer of hydrogen, we have actually demand. It's a supply and demand issue, so stay tuned because I think you're going to see a lot more about this going forward. Innovation. I talked about manufacturing. Economists call it the fourth industrial revolution. What's happening? It's about digital plant floors, right? If you have not gone into any manufacturing, I have to tell you, someone said, we have to make the connection between our young generation. This is like gaming floors, right? Because these equipment is all being made and done by automation. It is extremely high tech, right? So it's really tech floors that happen to be manufacturing products. And we are helping our small manufacturers make that transition. So we're not giving money to the John Deeres or the Collins Aerospace because they're well down this. We're doing it to those small manufacturers within their supply chain. And what's seeing is, we're not laying people off with this, which everyone thought, quite the contrary. Again, remember, we have a mass exodus. In fact, there's a statistics that says 10,000 baby boomers a day are leaving our workforce across sectors. So do the math. You're not going to get there. There's not a huge pipeline of people coming in. So as people are transitioning out, we are replacing this with technology. What's happening? Much higher paying jobs for everybody. It really is a rising tide lifts all boats. And we're seeing tremendous increase in productivity. We've had one, because we make a measure, everybody that gets money from us, be warned, because we make you measure everything on a return on investment model. In fact, we are the only state agency that is going through right now, it will be now spread throughout, we are doing zero-based budgeting in IEDA and IFA. So, and let me tell you how painful that was. But we see a light at the end of the tunnel, because what it's doing is it's forcing us to have KPIs on everything we do. And it shows us that we spend a lot of time being busy. We spend a lot of time gathering data. Not all the data is very useful for making decisions. And not all the busyness is productive. And so we're going to channel that in a way that we are like industry. So we're making industry measure, and you're seeing increases from 20 to 35% on these plant floors with small investments in technology, whether it's connectivity or whether it's investment. The biospace is the one that I told you I'm very excited about, and here's why. Here are the emerging opportunities for Iowa. Iowa should absolutely own precision agriculture. And now with the broadband connectivity and having connectivity at every farm and any place on the farm, because these are like brokerage. I mean, these are, these cabs of these tractors and these farmers, it's like Wall Street, right? Right there at your fingertip. We need to be able to make sure that works across Iowa because of this precision agriculture or regenerative ag. Vaccines and diagnostics, immunotherapies, and you could throw pharmaceuticals. As a grandmother, when you can't get amoxicillin for your grandkids because we outsourced all that, there is something wrong, right? Or we do not incentivize vaccines. Are you kidding me? I mean, we have to decide as a country, these are things that we need, and they need to be manufactured back in the United States. Because we've learned we've offshored too much to people that are not our friends at the end of the day. Bio-based products. It's thinking like petroleum companies have for years. We're going to harvest green chemicals from our fuel stream or new plant molecules. So everything from fiber to plastics that we put in manufacturing supply chain to create products from petroleum, we can do on a green platform. And we should own that space as well. And then of course, medical innovation and devices. Primarily, this is a play with the University of Iowa. We ceded this industry to Minnesota a long time ago, but I have to tell you, we're going to send Minnesota a fruit basket and telling them we're taking it back, right? Because with the University of Medical School here, with the things we're doing with 3D manufacturing, we should be able to, and we're a manufacturing powerhouse, we should be able to do that back in the state of Iowa. Competitiveness, right? Major changes. Number one state for retirement, who would have guessed? Why? Because we got rid of taxation on retirement. retirement income last year, right? It's not because of the weather, I can tell you that. The good things is you can still go to your warm place and have, you know, the sun during these months, but just don't move your wealth out of the state. That's what we wanted. I'm also loving seeing that we're children's welfare, women's welfare, top 10, and it's about time, right? Then that means things like equal pay for equal work, right? I mean, just, you know, hours. And if you listen to the governor's condition of the state, there's all kinds of initiatives in there for women and families, and I'm very excited about that. But I am giddy about this tax cut. When The Economist actually comes out with this, or the Wall Street Journal, and the last time we cut taxes, doing this 3.65 personal single factor, we can compete with that all day long. We can compete with the single factor corporate rate of 5.5% all day long, right? We don't need to be at 0 for corporate taxes because we still have to support fundamentals of government. But this makes us extremely competitive. And the same thing with the unemployment tax, right? There was people that cried that said we went from 26 weeks to the highest in the country of unemployment. Again, we have more jobs than we have people to fill them, always have. This is why are we giving 26 weeks of unemployment? And we can still do that longer if there's a major layoff in a small town that's going to take longer. I mean, there's exceptions. Went to 16 weeks. You know what the average week is now? 10 weeks. And the thing is, not only have we changed the system, so from day one when you come in for assistance with unemployment, we assign you a coach. And that coach, it works with you, it actually works for both sides of the equation. Not only are we getting people to work faster, we're removing impediments to growth. Do you have a child care issue? Do you have a transportation issue? Or perhaps you just absolutely want to be a chef and that's what you want to do. So we're going to connect you to training and we're going to move people to work because we believe the more productive we are as an economy, the faster that we can achieve this. And then finally, it is about this culture and investing in quality of life. And we've made tremendous investments over the years. I mean, when you look at the parks we have and the trail system and the connectivity, it's an incredible story to have. You know, we did realignment last year. We went from 37 cabinet members to 16, which means we all took more into, alignment. Cultural affairs came in with IEDA, and I have to tell you, it's about time because arts and culture has always been part of our economic strategy. By having all of these agencies that are aligned in one place, we are able, for the taxpayer, to deliver services much more strategic, but more importantly, much more transformational. So we're very excited. And of course, the arts has, we put an economic model to this, right? Because everything we do has to show economic return. Huge returns for those that are investing in the arts. So, and the same thing with Destination Iowa and CAT, and there's been some incredible projects. One of my favorite projects for Destination Iowa, it was right here, was the Easter Lake Project. I don't know if any of you worked on that, didn't you? I loved it for so many reasons, right? I loved it because it was an incredible private-public partnership, lots of private investment. I loved it because it truly is a place that meets all needs, right? And then the standard that they reached was like the Gold Plus, like the Platinum standard, I think. Again, so certainly we're looking for more of those kind of projects. So the health of Iowa is good. Even though there's all this geopolitical rest in the world, and I didn't even go into the broader economy, I have to say every night I go to bed thankful that I happen to live in Iowa. So thank you. We want to do questions? Mm-hmm. Oh, questions. We want to do questions? Yes.
One of the concerns I have here in Iowa is what appears to be the decreasing quality of education in our public schools. Mm-hmm. Could you address that?
Yeah, so, so I can address that not in great detail but obviously education, when we're dealing with people, particularly that made a decision to Iowa, that's when that becomes very, very critical, right? They want to know education, and so they'll choose schools based on that. If you listen to the governor's condition of the state, I am so pleased with the investment they're making by raising beginning teacher salary to put us in the top 5 of the country. I think that's tremendous, right? That making sure that there is some kind of standard for those that have some tenure there too, as far as a minimum pay that's higher. So I think that's good. We are not, and I know there was a lot of concern about school choice, and I'm not the person to speak on school choice. What I can tell you is Governor Reynolds feels passionate about it. And we have not seen the mass exodus from public schools that people thought. We did not see that. I also like in the bill that there is additional funding for public charter schools, right? Now, these are still public school districts that are doing a school based on an emphasis. So it could be an arts program, it could be STEM initiative, it could be engineering. So there is a lot of new investment for education, and the thing that I am most excited about is this major investment with literacy at the 3rd grade level, right? Major investments, because I believe that, if you cannot read, you cannot prosper, period, right? And so this is very evidence-based, that's gonna be done throughout the districts. And there's gonna be testing. We are gonna retire teachers to have this certification coming into our systems. We're the only state that does not have that. So I think the literacy thing, and we're gonna give parents more the option to hold kids back, right? Because sometimes kids should just not be passed on if they have not read at that level. So again, I would encourage you to invite the new director of education here. She can talk in a lot more detail. But I was pleased to see such a strong emphasis on education in the governor's condition of the state this year. All right, yes, one more, yes.
Recently, we've had publication that 34% of our college graduates, leave the state.
Yes.
What are you doing with that?
So when I talked about our talent attraction, our 4-tier program, I failed to mention that very next week, we will have a meeting with the Alum Association of 3 universities, Drake, Simpson, and Grinnell, starting out as pilot projects, that we are gonna work with the alum, because once we do the research and know our missing skill sets from those traded clusters, like in insurance and finance, we need whatever level of skill set that is. We're gonna work with the alum and say, you have people that graduated in these degree programs and they have 5 or 10 years of experience. We're gonna have you reach out on behalf of the state of Iowa and our employers to bring them home. So that's at least bringing people back. Because there's always gonna be a certain amount of people that leave. And honestly, I think that's okay. You know, my daughter had to go out and experience the world to realize that Iowa was this incredible place, so now she's back home and has those 2 other grandsons down the street. But then we also have to make the case of not leaving in the first place. And that is through internships and work-based learning, which the Governor Reynolds wants every child in the state of Iowa to have a connection to workforce somewhere, someplace. So that we can, because the thing about Iowans, there's so many redeeming great characteristics of Iowans, it's the humility that we have, right? Nobody tells any, so you got these incredible companies doing research or doing amazing things, and they don't tell anybody. And so we need to connect our students with opportunities in their backyard. So we're taking it a 2-pronged approach. All right.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate hearing from you, Debbie, and all the exciting information you had to share and present with us today. Thank you for the work that you do for our state. As a token of our appreciation, we've donated a book in your honor to the Des Moines Public Library. Your book will become part of the Rotary Rosie Reader Van collection, and our club donated $40,000 to the Des Moines Public Library back in 2020 to purchase that van. We also have some work going on at Easter Lake, which we're anxious to see how that turns out when that's finished. That's coming up soon for our club. Okay, so we've got some fun things scheduled for you over the next few months. Want to be sure that you know that Second Chance Tuesday is coming up again on February 13th back at Big Grove Brewery. As always, the fun and fellowship are free and the drinks and food are on your own. Then we've got President-elect Kevin's February Fling on Friday, February 16th. You should have received an invitation postcard and an email for you to sign up. It's going to be a great time. And then, of course, on Friday, February 23rd, the Polio Plus Night with the Iowa Wolves. Upcoming meetings, be sure that you always welcome to bring guests to attend any of our meetings, but you do need to RSVP by 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the day before the meeting. And you cannot register your guests up online. You've got to do that through Kitty. So next week, on January 18th, our own Ann Schmiedla, the CEO of Blank Park Zoo, is gonna be here to talk to us about all things zoo. On the 25th, Matt Sexton, who's visiting today, will be here to share with us about the Google. He's in charge of Google Public Affairs. And then on February 1st, you'll join us with Max Wellman, who's a principal and a very wonderful musician with Noche. So I want to thank you all for being here today, for being a vital part of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. We're so happy to officially welcome Steve and introduce him as a new member. And until we meet again, let's get out there and do good things and have fun in the name of Rotary. We are adjourned.